Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southerner's Northern Garden. So today I'm pulling my dahlias out of the garage from winter storage. Now typically one stores their dahlias, checks them every month to make sure they're sufficiently moist, or if they're drying out, make sure they're not desiccating. That's a little too much work that I want to do in winter, and so I'm going to show you what my dahlias look like. I haven't looked at them yet. I'm about to dump them out. I actually stored them over winter in this laundry hamper. It has sufficient ventilation on the sides, and I just put some landscaping fabric around there and stored them in vermiculite. I've done that the past couple years, and they stored okay, but last year I stored them in the basement, and this past year over winter I stored them in the garage because it would stay a little cooler, and that's what I was hoping for. It is also super windy today, so apologies for any audio, but I want to show you before I dump these out how I prepared the bed space behind me. I did mention that this bed has grown tomatoes in a previous video for like 3 years, and that's the only thing it's grown other than maybe some flowers planted with the tomatoes, some marigolds and some basil. But because I have a smaller vegetable garden and I don't do necessarily crop rotation because I just don't have the space to do that, this year I added a few supplements, which I typically do every year. One of them that I haven't added for a couple years now is azomite, which isn't a requirement, but it's in this green bag right here. I bought a 50-pound bag. It is a rock mineral dust that essentially brings a lot of trace nutrients or trace minerals back to your soil. So I put like 3 heaping shovelfuls, this size shovel, in this space because it says to add 1 to 2 pounds per 10 square feet, and so I just wanted to add enough in there. I wet it down a little bit just so it wasn't blowing away on this rainy day, and then I put some plant tone in there, which I had purchased from Home Depot last year on sale, and also used those leftover bags of land and seed compost that I had from planting the dogwood there. And so we're going to dump these dahlias out and see what they look like. I honestly have no idea, and I have a bad feeling about this, but we'll just see what they look like, and hopefully we can have some dahlias saved. I did mention in a previous video that I am not putting these or digging these back up at this fall. If I successfully grow dahlias from these tubers this year, I am just going to run a soil cable over winter in this raised garden bed. It's just too much trouble to store, and then I have a lot of issues with them desiccating typically or drying out, and so leaving them in the ground with a soil cable hopefully will allow them to survive from year to year. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Dahlias do not survive well in zone 6. If you mulch them over and we didn't have a bad winter, they might, but typically 7, 8's even better in most locations to overwinter dahlias. So let's get started. Surprisingly, some of these tubers actually look really well, but I'm going to dump them out right now that I've got this wet down a little bit. All right, everyone, so I think this was very much a mix of success and failure, and I would probably say 85 to 95% success rate. There were a few over there, 2 of them that were labeled that did not look great, and they had completely like either rotted or desiccated. There's one that didn't have a label on it, which was probably like an extra that I found and just threw in the mix last year, which is fine. The rest of these look pretty darn good. There's a couple that are suspect, like this one right here. It's really dry, but I'm planting it anyway. But the others even have eyes on them already. So I'm going to go ahead and get these planted. You can see I've got a lot here. And that's primarily how I planted them last year and had pretty good success. But also I was watching a YouTube video for another YouTuber last year, and she was saying that she plants her dahlias about 8 inches apart, staggered, so she can get the most in one space. And so that's what I'm kind of going to be doing here. And so I'm just going to get these planted best I can. Nothing special about it, just dig down a little bit and then get them seeded. And then I'll water them in a little bit. You don't want to get them too soaking wet because they can rot, obviously, before they get sprouted good. But we're just going to continue with this, and after I get them all in the ground, I'll go over what's left. All right, so I watered these in well. I got them planted and watered them in well. You typically don't want to water your dahlias again until you start seeing leafy growth come up. Gosh, it is so windy today, guys. You probably see that in some of the video with it blowing everything back and forth. So what I did was here on the left side, looking at me right now, the left side is the ones that looked the best. The right side were more desiccated or potentially didn't have names, and I did that because this honeysuckle, which I mentioned I might be removing this year, I think I'm going to give it another year and just preemptively treat it for aphids and see if that helps the issues that I'm having with it. But that will block a little light over here. So those are the ones I was afraid that would not come up anyway. And so I put them on the right side closest to the honeysuckle. The others looked pretty good. And so we've got a big mix here. Sweet Natalie, Hercules, which is a beautiful yellow that I don't remember if I got a bloom on last year. Salmon Runner, Rock Run Ashley, Crichton Honey, Peaches and Cream, Shiloh Noel, Florel, Small World. And then let's go around on the other side. A lot of these, some of them are in a mix that didn't look so great. So this has names on it, but I'm not sure if that's the exact variety because I didn't separate them last year. But Takeoff, Harvey, Coralie, Senior's Hope, Takeoff, Small World, Jowie Winnie, and Pinhill Watermelon. So overall, I think it was a pretty successful dahlia storage year. Let's see if I can get over here outside of the wind. So overall, I think that was a pretty successful storage method in the laundry hamper with just vermiculite. I did moisten the vermiculite before I stored them last year. Like, you don't want it soaking wet, but moist enough that will get them through winter. And that did seem to work pretty well. So landscape laundry baskets surrounded by landscape fabric and just vermiculite. I did dust a fungicide dust on them as I put them in there so they wouldn't rot. I'll drop the name of that below just if you're interested. But hopefully these will start growing now that our temperatures are getting warmer. Some people will wait or want to wait to put out their dahlias until the temperatures are consistently really warm. This is a project I just wanted to get done, and I put them out earlier before last year, and so they did perfectly fine. I'm not concerned about that. But if you want to know more about dahlias, Impatient Gardener is where I learned a lot about dahlias from, and particularly the storage method that I'm using or used last year. Like I mentioned, I have an electrical outlet like right here behind me. I'm just going to run a soil heating cable next year and see if these make it. They are beautiful, but there are lots of other flowers that are equally as beautiful that you can put in your garden. So in the event these don't last or overwinter well for me next year, I can fill this back up with vegetables or tomatoes or plant some other flowers in there. And so we're going to try out this fall the soil cable idea. I think it will be pretty successful, but like I said, it's an experiment and it's not something I'm going to recommend. It's just something I kind of came up with so I didn't have to take these in and out every year. And so it may not need to be on all winter. It may just need to be like January and February when it's our coldest months. But that's something I'm going to try anyway. So like and subscribe if you're interested in following along for that this fall. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Thank you for joining me, guys. Take care. Bye.